Hey, this is Victor Antonio, and welcome to my Tales from the Sales Side. Personal stories that have impacted how I sell, and I thought I'd share them with you. Now, this story takes place back when I first graduated from college, got my first job. I'm working for this guy named Joe. Let's just call him Joe. Now, Joe is one of these guys that's very command and control, what they call Theory X, likes to be in control of everything. Let me give you an example. One day, I was preparing a bid, right? Again, I engineered the design, I was preparing a bid, and it was just like a $50,000 quote. $50,000, right? And I remember I walked in with this 3-page quote, $50,000, more or less, bottom line, right? And I remember I walked in, I handed Joe the proposal. With one movement, he grabbed the proposal with one hand, and he always had this red felt tip pen right here, and he plucked it out, popped the cap, and immediately started to just edit the whole proposal. I mean, it was bleeding. I mean, it had so much red on it. And he said, make these changes and come back and see me before I'll sign it off. So I went back to my desk, made all the changes, came right back in again. About an hour later, gave him the proposal, and sure enough, one movement, grabs the proposal, pops the pen, and starts bleeding all over it. A little less blood, but nonetheless, many edits. This went on for about maybe 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times before he finally signed the proposal. Now, what do you think that did to me in the future? Every time I brought in a proposal, I knew it was going to get edited. So what I started to do was put in less time in the proposal because I knew he was going to edit it anyway. No matter what I brought in, he was always editing. It was never good enough. He never provided feedback on how to improve it. I tried to understand how to make it better, but no matter how I wrote it, no matter how I tried to accommodate his style and his writing, it was never good enough. He always edited the thing down. Now, fast forward, I leave that company. No surprise, right? I joined another company. It's a wireless company. And in this company, my boss is named Tom. Now, I first designed this big project. My first project, rather, was this big design. That was the first project I worked on. It was like $1.2 million. That was the first proposal I put together. Now, I'm going to walk this into Tom's office, and in my head, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. He's just going to brutalize this thing just like Joe. So I remember I went through the proposal. It's $1.2 million. It's a big proposal, like 50 pages, right? And so I walk in. I hand him the proposal. He looks at it, flips to the first page, reads the executive summary, then flips all the way to the back and looks at the price, $1.2 million. He looks at it, stares at it, looks back at me and says, "Is it all correct?" And I go, "Yeah, it's correct. Did you double check it, Victor?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Okay." He signs it, hands it back to me, says thank you, and I remember walking out the door stunned. I'm thinking this guy's going to bleed all over this proposal, but he didn't. So I walk out of the office, and what do you think was my first emotion? What do you think was my first emotion when I walked out of that office? It was fear, pure horror, because he signed it, which means I am now responsible and accountable for everything in this proposal. I remember I panicked. Having it signed, I panicked. I went over to this engineer, his name was Roy, who'd been around for like 20 years. And I said, "Roy, can you just triple check this for me?" And I remember Roy went through it. There was a couple of things missing, but they weren't big items, so it really didn't make a difference. But that day, I learned something, that managers have 2 styles, command and control, Theory X, or Theory Y, which is delegation. Let's walk through these 2. It's important because, again, it really changed how I manage my salespeople. Theory X is basically command and control, as I've mentioned. And that means you like to micromanage people. The problem with micromanaging people is they lose their motivation and enthusiasm because they're always being controlled. And when people are always being controlled, they have no autonomy. They just really aren't motivated to do the job. They're not liking it. In fact, they're afraid to go left or right because they think they're going to get yelled at or scolded. So again, using that type of management style is never a good thing. That was Joe's style. Let's shift over here to Tom's style. Tom's style was basically, look, I'm paying you a lot of money to come to this company and work for us. Therefore, I hope you know what you're doing, because I'm going to hand over responsibility, and that proposal is yours, not mine. Essentially, that's what he told me. That's theory Y. That's more of delegation, and that's where I like to live. I like to delegate responsibility, because when you give people that autonomy, that freedom to basically make decisions, do things on their own, they want to work for you. They're more motivated to do their job because they feel in control. They feel that growth because they're learning, they're doing, they're going to make mistakes, but guess what? That happens. One of the things that Tom always told me, he says, Victor, if you make a mistake, let me know. Don't let me find out from somebody else. What a nice piece of wisdom. If you make a mistake, let me know. Don't let me find out from somebody else. And there was a couple of times in the 3-year period I was there where I did make a mistake. And he was basically like, how do we fix it? There was no yelling, there was no scolding, there was no looking down. It was like, how do we fix it? And so I want you to think about this. In sales, you can either control people, micromanage them, or you can let them be who they are. There's a saying, I don't know who said it, but it's a great saying. Treat a man or a woman, treat a man as he is, he will remain as he is. Treat him as he can and should be, he will become what he can and should become. And that's how I want you to manage salespeople. Again, let them grow, let them make mistakes, but give them the responsibility and the accountability for managing their own business. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you manage people right and you know how. Take care.